Now, Israel's foreign minister is likely to face tough questioning from his British and Irish counterparts later on today over the killing of a Hamas leader in Dubai. He'll be expected to explain how fake Irish passports were used by 3 of the alleged killers. So while the political connection is being tested, how closely are Britain and Israel connected financially? Well, in 2008, Israel was Britain's 29th largest market worldwide. Bilateral trade this year is expected to exceed £2 billion. It's pretty much evenly split between the two countries in terms of imports and exports. British companies with interests in Israel include HSBC, British Airways and GlaxoSmithKline. Well, joining me now to discuss the passport row is David Hartwell, Middle East security analyst at IHS Jane. Welcome to the programme this morning. When the ambassadors were summoned to kind of give an explanation, yes, they were able to say, you know, hand on heart, we don't know what's going on.
Yes.
That's not really going to wash today with Mr. Lieberman, is it?
I think Lieberman is going to want to see that they have more evidence. I think seeing that you've had the Dubai police chief say categorically that he is, as far as he's concerned, that Mossad is behind this.
Yes.
He's thinking that now you've had investigations launched apparently in France, Britain and Ireland.
Yeah.
Lieberman is going to want to see some concrete proof that, you know, this is advancing forward. But we're not about to see the Israeli foreign minister admit now or any time in the near future that this is a Mossad operation.
You think he'll ever admit it?
Certainly not publicly, no.
No, the foreign minister's deputy said over the weekend, look, this isn't really a great big crisis because whatever happens, Israel's ability to find out information about Iran, Islamic extremists is
yes,
such that we can never, there won't actually ever be a kind of a diplomatic rift. Is that true? I
think it'd be important not to overplay the intelligence relationship between Israel and the UK. Certainly it's not as important to the UK as the American relationship, for example.
Sure.
But Israel certainly has a value in terms of intelligence investigation towards Iran. I personally believe that it would be very difficult for either side to compromise those type of relationships, and that they will find a way, fudge or otherwise, to kind of smooth over this in the longer run.
This is the problem, really, because you saw the British press over the weekend. The Irish are the same. The French aren't very happy about it. This is not going to go away as a media story.
No.
So even if Mr. Lieberman just says, look, I don't have the proof and I'm really not going to discuss it any further, there will still be pressure from Europe to do something about this, won't there?
Yes, there will, and then that may be on a more EU-wide basis rather than on a bilateral basis.
Do you see kind of an EU consensus going on here? Do you think that Germany and Ireland, the UK, France, all talking to each other?
They are certainly all talking to each other. Whether there's a consensus emerging, I think there may be sort of some public consensus, but behind the scenes, you know, because each country has a different bilateral relationship with Israel, and Israel prefers dealing with EU countries on a bilateral basis because it knows there are differences of opinion towards Israel within the EU, then I think that's where the major pros and cons will lie within the response to Israeli action.
David Miliband has had a relatively warm relationship with Israel, and I talked there in the introduction about the bilateral trade that goes on between the two countries. You don't see that actually being disrupted by this, do you?
I don't know, not in the long term, no. I think that there may be strongly worded protests, there may become some kind of sort of public denunciation of what appears to be a botched Mossad operation. But beyond that, I do not see, you know, long-term political or even economic ramifications for the Israelis.
I'm interested that you say botched, because it was not botched. I mean, they got the result they wanted. It was botched because everybody realises that they were using fake passports.
Because it was an operational success from the point of view that, you know, the target was eliminated. It's a strategic failure from the fact that it appears to be, assuming this was a Mossad operation, we're not saying it is, that, you know, the strategic failure is at the political level, where, you know, that they've essentially been caught.
Does this make one think that fake passports are used in other circumstances where they are not caught?
It's entirely possible. I think Israel. I think why the storm has risen around Mossad so much in this particular instance is because Mossad has form on this. It's used fake passports in the past, and used Canadian passports to try and kill Khaled Bashad in 1997 in Jordan. So there is form for Mossad as far as this incident is concerned, and it would be fairly naive, I think, to assume that this sort of other operation isn't carried out by their intelligence services.
Now, when this has happened before, Mossad has kind of said, look, Israel has said, it won't happen again. It clearly does keep happening.
Yes.
Where do we go from here with this? It doesn't appear that Europe really has a particularly great incentive to beat Israel with a big stick over this.
No, and the EU leverage over Israel is fairly limited anyway. I think the EU certainly doesn't have much leverage concerning the peace process. The Israelis already have a fairly sceptical view of the EU, viewing them far too sympathetic to Palestinians. Really, it's going to be in the realm of, we're very angry with this. We don't think you should have done it. Please don't do it again in the future. But as to sort of concrete measures towards what the EU as a collective whole can do to make Israel not do this in the future, it's very, very difficult to see anything that they can do.
So just briefly before we go today, you're not expecting anything concrete to come out of the meetings today?
Certainly not this meeting today, I wouldn't have thought, but maybe in the coming weeks, there may be more coming days and weeks, you may see a more unified position emerge. But as I say, Israel will know that it can deal with certain countries on a bilateral basis, and that's where Israel will feel that it can influence things much more to its advantage.
David Hartwell, thank you very much indeed for your analysis this morning.